We're getting to know ideas of how to get a teaching job and begin your career. We started with our thinking portfolio, where we outline stories and examples of the skills that we have to offer as a teacher. We have written our resume and cover letter emphasizing the skills we have to offer. Now we're going to be looking at interview skills. I have attached for you putting your best foot forward document that you can read, and I've also attached examples of questions that you may get asked. I've also attached what a reference looks like, so you have and know what the topics will be about. You know your skills and the supporting stories for your skills from your portfolio. You know from your resume and cover letter that you are now a strong candidate to become a teacher and to have an interview. Now you need to practice for interview skills, and they're totally different than teaching skills. So step one, you need to practice answering one question a day. To answer the question per day, you need to frame your answer involving 4 areas: students, colleagues, administration, and parents. For example, you might be asked, can you give us an example of how you've handled a conflict in your teaching? And you could start out by saying, I'm going to talk about a student I had a conflict with who was talking out. I talked to other colleagues to find out what they do with students who are talking out, some solutions. I talked to admin, and I sat with the student and I listened to what the issue was. We came up with some solutions for the problem, and we decided to try one idea the next day, which was, for example, to give them a signal, and I gave them just a hand signal to say they needed to not talk out. When you're framing your answer using students, teachers, colleagues, and administration and parents, you also want to start your answer out in different ways to show and emphasize your experience. So you can start out an answer. If they asked about a conflict with the students, you can say, as a tutor, I found this, or as a student teacher, I had this example, or as a coach, I have found. If you were going to answer a question about how you would create a unit, a curriculum question, you might start out with, from my experience as a student teacher, I learned, and then you talk about creating your unit for the needs of the students, talking to other teachers at the grade level, talking to admin to find out what the expectations were for unit planning, and including what you were going to let the parents know about in a newsletter about what the students are going to be studying. You can also answer questions by framing it. If they ask you, what skills do you have to offer as a teacher, you might say, there are many skills I have. I will outline 3. Don't do more than 3, and you would say, I'm approachable, and give an example. I'm very flexible, and give an example. I'm highly creative, give an example. And remember, if you can, involve your examples where you have dealt with other teachers, grade level colleagues, students, admin, or parents. You can also start your answer out to your question, particularly when a conflict question, or how would you deal with an angry parent, because I believe that all parents want their children to do well and are afraid they may not want to do well, and they care. I would do the following steps. And don't outline more than 3. And of course, the first step you're going to say is, I would listen to what their concern is. Handling conflict, you always want to listen first and then find some place that you can agree with what the parent or student is saying. You can also answer questions based on being a teacher. So if someone said to you, how would you deal with a student who was talking out all the time? You could say, because I've already established at the beginning of the year, we established as a group what the classroom rules would be, and we'd been practicing them, and I taught the students what behaviors were expected, then I would be now ready, if this child was continuing to talk out, to sit down with them and ask them what they think the problem is and how we can solve it. So you can go back and say, these are the steps I took. So the questions you're going to be asked are going to underline what skills you have to offer the job. There'll be a curriculum question, meaning how would you plan a unit? a conflict question, and you can say whether the conflict's whether a student or another colleague or a parent. Classroom management is definitely going to come in. How would you manage a class? How would you deal with diverse learners is probably going to be a question. And how do you involve parents in your teaching? So this purpose of this was to give you some ideas of how to frame your answers. In general, as you go into your interview, having done your portfolio, practice questions, and done your resume and cover letter, you're going to know yourself, believe in yourself, know your examples for those 5 or 6 questions they might ask. Wear professional, comfortable clothing. Don't buy a new outfit. Wear something you're really comfortable in, and always remember to smile. When you're in the interview, be a teacher in the role. Be in the role of the teacher, and you'll find it much easier to answer. To practice, videotape yourself answering a question. Do a mock interview if you can. Practice in front of the mirror using your eyes and your smile. And now you have yourself pumped up and you're ready for interviews. Thank you.